Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of In the Pit with Lobo Tigre. Our victim of the hour is Miles Thompson. He's an old friend of mine that I've known for many years, and I've made money with before on the Reservoir transaction, the famous Timok gold discovery in Serbia. Miles also has another company, a prospect generator called Lara Exploration, and he's here to talk to us today about what Lara is working on and what could potential shareholders look forward to.
Thank you, Lobo. People forget with the prospect generators how long it takes to do stuff. Reservoir was seen as an overnight success, but as you well know, it took many years, and you were a very early supporter, which I've never forgotten. With Lara, we've been going for 10 years already, so we already have, we're going into this next upswing in the market with quite a mature portfolio and quite a lot of things going on.
What was admirably brief. Okay, so prospect generator, mature, you're not just starting from scratch, and you have two projects that delivered significant news in the recent past. Is one of those, would you consider your flagship, or
Yes,
tell us about your two discoveries?
Definitely. So, it's interesting when things start to move and you're actually doing some exploration, things start to come up. And we announced two discoveries last year, a zinc play in Peru, which we've not drilled yet, and a copper play in Brazil called Planalto, which we've now done a fair amount of drilling into and has become our flagship. It's called Planalto. We drilled 5 or 6 holes ourselves last year, and end of 2017, beginning of 2018. The results of that were good enough to attract a partner, Capstone, which is a mid-sized Canadian copper miner. And the deal with them is they fund us right through until production. So it's actually the best deal we've ever done, which is both a sign of our maturity.
You're carried. You don't have to spend another dime.
Not
all
another
the way
dime.
to cash flow.
All the way to cash flow.
And we've already
found.
Keep?
We keep 30%.
Nice. Okay.
I think that's indicative of both the quality of the project and the maturity of our portfolio, but also of the way the market is now changing. There's real demand for what we're doing for the first time in a long time.
All right, so whether you like Lara or not, that's interesting market read there. For the money to be coming back in to fund this type of exploration, and what you're just talking about, the appetite is significant for resource investors out there. Okay, so Planalto, copper, Capstone carries you, and they're drilling now, or what news flow might we expect?
Yeah, we've just done 2,000 meters of drilling. We put the results out last week. We now have a hiatus because we have to get a report approved by the Brazilian government that work we've done. We expect to be back have to get that done in August, geophysics in September, back drilling end of September, beginning of October. And we're basically drilling out a resource now. It's becoming fast becoming a mature and I think very exciting project for us.
Okay. Several questions to go from there, but let's talk about the other projects first, and then we'll talk about politics and other things. All right, so zinc in Peru, that's an odd combination.
I know we started in 2016 generating new projects in Peru, and we're driven basically as a intellectual property company. It's like an R&D business. So we have one of our senior guys had worked for a long time in central Peru, and he brought us a whole series of different targets. And we had some amazing results from Putuco, this one project where we have exposed what they're called mantos. We have an entire bed of limestone that's mineralized. So we're seeing quite wide, thick zones of mineralization at surface. We're looking for a partner for that one now, and we actually have another similar prospect now we're working on, also is looking interesting. So that's been a new business for us, just in the last couple of years, but we're starting to see already very interesting results.
And how long is the strike of this surface exposure?
Individual outcrops, 40, 50 meters. We have,
But do they line up over
and they're stacked better.
Okay.
Better than lining up, they're stacked.
I'm asking because actually, now that I think about this is in Peru, at Dynacor's Tumipampa, they had lots of widespread mineralization over a very large project, and there was an area with this manto, and they sampled on it, you went underground and you climb up this raise, and you'd see this consistently thick, about half-meter wide seam, just like solid pyrite, which happened to carry gold. It was brilliant, and it was so it didn't pinch and swell at all. It was so consistent. It looked great. And then that died. That was just it. Like that part they found seemed to be pretty much it.
Yeah.
And farther along you couldn't find. So this is only surface work. But
this is only surface work, but over quite a large area.
Mm-hmm.
So multiple vertical structures, multiple layers of limestone that are mineralized and brecciated. So very early days, but for us a very interesting target.
And you're not tempted to go raise some money and drill it yourself?
That's not our model. And
that's actually what I wanted to hear.
Yeah,
if you had said, "Oh yeah, we might do that," I would say, "But you're a prospect generator."
Yeah, no. I think as a prospect generator, you have to keep an open mind. It's about capital discipline. I mean, my problem with the broader exploration space is that they're run basically like horse races, where you're just gambling money rather than trying to create a business. We try to run our exploration as a business.
Mm-hmm.
But if I thought that it would be more accretive to us to drill it ourselves than to joint venture it, I would. But that's never happened.
In defense of high standards, I like that. Okay, so we have high-grade zinc in Peru. We have a deposit shaping up in copper in Brazil. Anything else coming along the pike? Is there anything else?
You'll remember we had a high-grade copper discovery called Curionopolis, which has now evolved a little bit, and we call Maravaya. We had like an amazing intercept. I mean, 54 meters at 9% copper, which you will remember that.
I remember that.
So we, through the bad years, we joint ventured that with a private group in Vancouver, who in turn joint ventured it with a Brazilian group, and we've had a very sort of difficult process as they've fought amongst each other, and then the bear market has made it hard for them to finance. But we have the operating plant pretty much finished. We're negotiating at the moment the last stages of the offtake finance that will see the thing completed. I'm hopeful. I wouldn't set a hard deadline on this, but we're pretty close. I think we'll be fully financed in the next month, and I think we'll be in operation and production by the end of the year. And that's pretty meaningful for us because our royalty stream on that and our ownership, plus what they owe us in late fees, mean that we'll be a cash flowing company, not profitable, but we'll be covering a lot of our costs.
Covering your exploration expenses. That was a forward-looking statement, and I got to poke back on this one.
Yeah, no.
I have sat here, if not in this city with you, then it was Toronto, and you told me, yeah, I think this is the year Maravaya is finally going to come together.
I know.
So why should I believe you this time?
You shouldn't. You should be skeptical. That's your job. I look forward to proving you that this time it will work.
I'm sure you will.
And I think also that's a function of where we are in the market. So whereas before there wasn't any money around, they were fighting each other over who pays for what, now we actually have a large trading company willing to provide all the money they need in exchange for the offtake. So I think...
And the permitting is all done?
The permitting was done more than a year ago.
Okay.
So I think, this is being lifted a little bit by the environment around it, but also the relationship is being sorted out. So it's been, this is something that should have been production a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I've made a lot of promises saying it would be, and it hasn't. So I understand the skepticism.
Well, to be fair, you never promised.
No.
But you thought this was the year.
I really thought I did, and I was frustrated. So it should have been production last November, and I had to finance the company in March of this year. Chris, my VP, and myself were the cornerstone investors of that. So it was frustrating that the delays from these guys meant I had to put my hand in my pocket again. But I do think we're pretty close now.
All right. I was going to come to that later, but since you brought it up,
yep.
I always like to ask people how much skin in the game they have. So how much of your own money, not free options as a director, but how much of your own money have you put into Lara?
I own about 10% of the company. It's worth about $20 million currently. I bought pretty much all of my shares, and I'm not looking at a big profit right now.
Okay, I can read between the lines there. All right, fair enough. You have substantial skin in the game.
I don't remember the exact number of how much I paid, is what they own.
Yeah, well, okay. You put your own money in. That's all I think a fellow shareholder can ask for. So, Maravaya, Do you have any precious metals in the mix that are being explored?
We have what I believe is a very interesting low sulfidation epithermal play in Peru called Corina. It sits 15 kilometers away from a mill that's operated by Hochschild, Peruvian owned but London listed
Yes.
precious metals company. They have about 3 years worth of reserves in their mine, and they're very keen that our Corina project fills the gap there. They are very close to being permitted to drill. We expect that to be done.
Sorry, they're your JV partners there?
JV partner.
Yeah, okay.
They're actually earning 100%. We get $4 million and 2% NSR, which I agreed to because basically as soon as they drill something out, it's going straight in that mill. So it would be a short-term royalty if it works. That's a big if, obviously. But we expect them to be drilling next month, and we expect to have results this year.
You know, the word royalty keeps coming up. Is there any chance that you might change your business model like EMX and become a royalty company? You've done so many projects over the years. How many royalties does Lara have exposure to?
5 or 10, I forget the exact number.
So could that be a new part of the business model?
If it turns out to make more money than anything else, yes. I mean, I still think for what we do, what really pays out well for investors is the big discovery. So we try to focus on that. Every project that we get diluted out of or we vend because we can't do something with, we keep a royalty on. So over time, we're accumulating a portfolio of royalties. So I don't necessarily see that as being our focus, but if that turned out to be where the value was, then...
Well, you'd have a fiduciary responsibility.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I see my job currently is to make a discovery that gets the company bought out. But if we had more value in the royalty portfolio, then that's what gets us bought out. As long as we get bought out, I'm happy.
You don't want to do this for the rest of your life? No, you don't want to become a miner.
I don't want to become a miner.
You're an explorationist.
I will be doing this for the rest of my life.
I think once the bug gets you, there's no cure for that.
I always felt I was lucky because I actually enjoy what I do. So it doesn't, when I had both Lara and the 2 reservoirs, that was way too much work. Like I didn't have a life. Now I just have Lara, so I have a life again, which is wonderful. And I enjoy the exploration business. And I don't think generally it's very healthy to retire anyway. So no, I'll be doing this the rest of my life.
All right, so Lara 2.0 perhaps in the future. All right, so multiple projects. How many, we haven't covered them all, but are these the only ones that will be drilled this year, or are there any others that might actually surprise us with some extra results?
So we drilled a vanadium play in Brazil over the end of the year, and because at the time we were short of money and we had to drill 2,000 meters at Planalto, we got busy. So those results are still to come. So those will be out, I think, in September. So once we finish the program, because we're a relatively small group of people, once we finished the program on Planalto, we then went and picked up all the drill core and started processing it. So we'll have, I think this year, more Planalto drill results. We'll have some real progress on Maravilla. We'll have the Corina drilling, the gold project, and we'll have the results of the vanadium drilling at Itaituba.
Okay. And since most of this is paid by other people, we love the use of other people's money in this business, but you are doing a fair amount of work yourself. How much will that cost, and how much do you have in the bank?
So we have about $2 million in the bank, and we spend roughly 1.8 a year.
All right, so you're set for this year, but obviously next year. We hope good news will help us raise the higher
Next year, we're either financing again or we're getting our royalty checks from Maravilla. These are the 2 possibilities.
Yeah, that would be sweet. Exploration with cash flow is my favorite way to explore.
I mean,
yeah, just it. Okay, I have to ask the political risk question.
Yep.
There's a certain friend of mine who told me once that he was wandering around PDAC and he saw one of his projects in Brazil being hawked by another company. Who would that be?
It wasn't me.
So, why do you go to these places, and why don't you have anything in Nevada or Ontario or something?
So I don't have anything in Nevada because I'm not a Nevada geologist. So I think people get a little bit confused about what represents expertise. So these things are now so specialized, and the mining business has become so complex. It's really about all of the soft issues, the permitting, the politics, the relationships, the environmental, the social, have become so critical now. Like, you can have the best prospect in anywhere in the world, but if you can't deal with a local community or it's environmentally sensitive, you have nothing. So
I was frankly happy to see larger players come in and take on the management of things in Serbia.
Yeah.
Not that you didn't have experience there, but just I was happy to see.
I think
company
that's the way it should be done. I think we should go out, we should find things, we should take them to a certain point, and then I think the group that does feasibility work is different from the early exploration group, and then the group that's doing the mine development is another group again. I think these are
Different
specialist skill sets.
Yes. All right.
And I think these things are very regional as well. Like, I was 10 years in Serbia, and I'm certainly no expert in Serbia. It takes time to build those relationships. It takes time to understand the legal framework, to build trust with the local communities.
And you were in Brazil with Goldfields decades ago?
I've been in Brazil for 30 years. I lived there for 15 years, and I've worked there for over 30. So, I just have a depth of relationships, an understanding of the culture, of the landscape, of how things work there. And as long as everything is going perfectly well, it doesn't really matter so much. Anybody can do it.
When do things ever go perfectly well?
They never do, which is why you have to know your way around.
Okay.
So, in an ideal world where you go, you register, you get a license, you hire a drill, you drill that license, and then you build a mine. I mean, it's a very simplistic way of looking at the world. In reality, everything is complicated and nothing ever goes to plan. And your local expertise is not only understanding the technical aspects, but it's understanding how you fix all the other stuff.
Sure. So has Bolsonaro changed anything on the ground? Do you see any difference, or is he just another politician, doesn't matter?
His rhetoric is alarming, and we're seeing some...
Where else have we heard that?
Yeah, no, I mean, some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth beggars belief. And I'm alarmed at the increased rate of deforestation in the Amazon, and some things like that. They're really unpleasant to see. In terms of getting business done in Brazil, it's way better. We've had, whatever it was, 10 plus years of socialist government, which has been a disaster, massive corruption and inefficiency. I'm more bullish about Brazil now than I have been in a very long time.
Okay. And Peru?
Peru is fast catching up on Chile in terms of as a mining jurisdiction. For what we do in exploration, it's tough. They have a modern mining code. You can very easily apply for a license and secure ground. There's lots of availability. Permitting to get onto your ground and do any work is really, really tough. So it's a completely different set of problems to Brazil.
Right. And is the copper discovery, would that be open pit?
Yes.
So that's, if you look at Peru, you look at the things that have been able to go forward, it seems like it's all underground, minimal footprint. And the things that are getting protested and blocked by natives, it's all these big open pit copper projects.
No, I mean, there's 2 or 3 big open pits that are in development right now. Quelavaco, which is Anglo, Michiquillay, which got sold to somebody, I forget who. Peru is very case by case. I mean, I was chatting to somebody who knows Peru reasonably well just before I came here. We actually had a really interesting target in southern Peru, which we were excited about conceptually. We ended up walking away when we realized it was in an Aymaran community. So these are people who were invaded by the Quechuas, which we know as the Incas, invaded by the Spanish, and now they take a look at me as a gringo and say,
right.
What the hell? They're just never ever going to be happy with you being there, because their experience with people from outside has all been negative. So we took that.
You don't get any slack for being a lineman.
No. I mean, none of that's insurmountable, and we're quite good at the community side of things. But I've got this super guy who helps me with that in Peru, who's is a native Quechua speaker and is just such a charming guy. That most places we go, it's great. But even he's seen as an interloper within the Aymaran part of the world, and they're very anti-mining and anti-outside interference. So we took a look at that and said, you know what, too hard. We're better off spending the time and the money on something else. It's very, very localized. You have to really know who you're dealing with, where you're working, and assess it, because when you mess up, it's just so expensive.
Understood. Okay. I want to try to end this on a positive note here, but we're talking mostly base metals. What is our best hope for some precious metals joy on this?
Carina.
That's
Low
the-
sulfidation epithermal vein in Peru, next to an operating mine that needs ore.
And will you drill it?
No.
Or it's looking for a JV partner?
Hochschild will drill it.
Oh, that's all right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And time frame on the news on that potentially?
September.
September. Okay, very good. Well, hopefully we'll be looking at $1,500 gold at the time.
Hopefully.
There'll be joy. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Very interesting. Good luck with it.
Thank you very much, Lover.